Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma 231 here, back in date about Weekly Shonen Jump, issue number 44 of 2025. Or, at least, I'm going to talk about a few series from Weekly Shonen Jump, issue number 44 of 2025. That I need to repeat that, not particularly, but I don't know, I just felt like saying Weekly Shonen Jump, issue number 44. Okay, I'm going to just stop there, right? But pretty much a little bit of a behind the scenes on this video right here. Of course, as you can see on my screen if you are currently watching the YouTube version, for some reason I already have ranked the entire issue of number 44, and you may be sitting down here like, oh, Glowplasma, that's pretty weird. You normally do that at the end of your Weekly Shonen Jump videos. And yes, you are completely right. That's how these really have been going since I started the series all the way back in 2023. But occasionally there just comes times where I am so behind on making videos that sometimes the act of making a video is so disappointing and jarring to me that I really have trouble doing it. And that's what happened with this video here for Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 44. I recorded this video, or at least I tried to record this video, for about 2 hours on, I think, let me pull up the date real quick, right? I think it was the 18th of November of 2025. And I sat down and I tried to record this video. I could not get a start I liked, and I was just trying to go through it, and I just had so much pressure on me, so much schoolwork, and everything together just made this video to a point where I recorded all the way up to where I normally would. I got about 5 series into Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, and I just had to stop. I was not enjoying my time sitting down, and it was just one of these things where I didn't want to record this video anymore. So what ended up happening was I went on Twitter being like, guys, I'm sorry, this video is not going to happen. Like, I'm sorry, it's just, I just can't pretty much make a video I'm proud of. And whenever I don't make a video I'm proud of, then I'm not making a video, right? But either way, it was later that night after I sent out that tweet. I had a particularly bad day and everything, and eventually I got to the point where I was just laying in bed, and I'm like, you know what, let me read those chapters of Jump over again. And I reread them, and I said, you know what, these chapters aren't as bad as I really was thinking they were in the moment, but also they weren't amazing, right? It definitely wasn't my favorite issue of Weekly Shonen Jump ever, and just all of these factors together made me not want to record that video any longer, so I'm like, yeah, I'll scrap it. And then I woke up the next morning being like, you know what? Who's saying I have to talk about all of the series in the magazine, right? Because of course, as you can see here on my screen, I ranked 14 series, and why don't I just talk about 5 of them instead of all 14? This is something that I've done before. About this time last year, I started up a little bit of a subset on this channel called the mini episode, or let's talk a mini episode of Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 44, whatever. So you're going to be watching that. It's a mini episode, which means I'm only covering 4 series, or it was 4 series, but I'm like, I really want to talk about my favorite 4 series this week, and Ichi the Witch. So we're going to call that, you know what, like the whole idea of, oh gosh, what's my not mathing? 5, that's the number 5, right? So yeah, of course, as you can see here, I'm just going to talk about Ichi the Witch, Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, Pong Peril, Akane-banashi, and the Elusive Samurai. That's Ichi the Witch, I don't have chapter numbers written down. Ichi the Witch, 52, Modulo, 4, Pong Peril, 12, Akane-banashi, 176, and the Elusive Samurai, 220. One other thing before we get in here. I want to mention that normally on this channel, I do this whole thing of like, hey, in the past, in Shonen Jump, there's these things called jump starts where Viz would bring over 3 chapters of a series, serialize it into magazine, and be like, hey, are we going to continue to translate this if there's enough, want out there in the world to do it? And I've done something very similar on this channel where I'm like, hey, it's been 3 chapters of Someone Hurt, so I want to continue to read it. I definitely didn't steal this from, my favorite manga podcast ever called Weekly Manga Recap, which is pretty much the show that I do now, just talking about Weekly Shonen Jump, but hey, inspiration's okay sometimes, right? But I just really like how they do that, so that's sort of what I do, right? I want to continue reading Someone Hurts. I thought this chapter was decently funny and a good time. Just mentioning it, so next time whenever you're like, oh, this guy's still covering Someone Hurts, that's why. And with all of that being said, I think this issue Weekly Shonen Jump had Luffy on the cover, but none of that matters. We're talking about Ichi the Witch, chapter number 52. This chapter is titled Freeze. And a really fun part about this chapter is really the theming, in my opinion, right? As we see, of course, all of Team Descaros get to this ship called the Chronostasis ship, I think is what it was called. I don't fully remember. But they all get around the ship, and Ichi's like, hey, Deskross, something isn't right around here. And I love how they're all just being like, hey, stay next to me and all this various stuff, right? And we see that Deskross is pretty much casting a barrier spell around herself and around all of the other members of Team Deskross. And Gokuraku's like, hey, isn't that a barrier spell around that ship as well? As we see the ship Chronostasis sort of here just sitting almost still in the waves of the pendulum seas. As we just get told that no, that's not a barrier around that ship, but more like its own little pocket space where everything inside of it is frozen. Dun dun da da dun dun. And it's a really cool thing as we then see Ichi get down and just walking on these frozen waves. And it's such a cool thing where it's like, oh yeah, like the sea waves are just frozen and Ichi can walk around them. It's like, whoa, that's pretty neat, right? And at this point, Deskross goes to Ichi and says hey, Ichi, you remember what I told you about the mindset to have for this hunt, right? And then she's like, yeah, of course I do. You told me losing is a given and that winning is a gift. And Deskross is like, exactly. And this time, our target is an epic magic. As we then get the narration for what exactly an epic magic is. Epic magics, ancient and powerful. These magics witches have tried and failed to acquire for a very long time. Traits which may lead to a magic being declared epic. Their location/environment makes them near impossible to reach. Provoking them puts catastrophic damage to the surroundings, and their natures are unpredictable, enough that inspecting them is too risky. The sum of all information known about the time magic is that it manipulates time. That's it. Not only has it rebuffed multiple inspection teams, keeping witches from learning about it, it has also twisted time enough to reverse the fact that some teams have even reached it at all. And pretty much Deskross explains to Ichi being like, hey, this one here is a very shy magic. We really don't know about its trial or if it's even a human hater magic. But if it can manipulate time like we suspect, then it'll be a powerful tool to have whenever we go up against the world hater magic. While acquiring it would be awesome, just even starting the trial is a simple victory for us. However, as soon as things start to look too scary, we're scramming. All right, guys, and everybody's like, okay, then time to begin an epic hunt. As we see all Team Deskross pretty much gets up on this ship and starts walking around, and as everybody's walking around, Kumagi's sort of acting as the comic relief here, until everybody jumps into action. As Gokuraku, Ichi, and Deskross all turn around being like, oh, what's over here? And Ichi's even like, hey, something is there. As we see just one of the ports to the inside of the ship. Fog rolls by it as a hand sticks out. And we see this hand is holding its fingers in a particular type of way. They are making a V in between their middle and ring fingers, and the two fingers, the pointer finger and the middle finger are stuck together, and the pinky finger and the the ring finger are stuck together, right? It's a very interesting visual, and I can't tell you how many times after I read this chapter I've tried to put my hand in this sort of orientation, and I just can't do it. I don't know what it is about. I've seen people I even asked my friends are you able to do this? And they're like, yeah, it's super easy. I'm like, why are my hands just not meant for this? I try, and even trying to hold my hands and fingers together, it just doesn't work. What's wrong with me, right? If any of you could do it, please leave it in the comments, because I'd be so interested to know if I'm just bad at life or something, or if it's just no, maybe my fingers aren't dexterous like some special people are, right? But either way, as this hand sticks out, we get some more narration saying, sailors fear the time magic. Not only do they refuse to sail in its seas, but they also created a sea shanty warning against it. Oh gosh, so I actually want to, you know what, I've got her. It wouldn't be right if I didn't read out the sea shanty in a proper sea shanty tune, right? Okay, sea shanty tune. All right, we're going to go to YouTube. Okay, so after way more research into the sea shanties than I probably ever should have done for this stupid little bit, I call it a stupid little bit, I think this is going to be pretty nice, right? Maybe not as nice for you guys as it will be for me because, like, I found a instrumental version of a sea shanty. It's one of the famous sea shanties called Wellerman, and it's an instrumental by a guy named Aggle the Bard. It's just like I searched it up on YouTube and I'm like, oh, instrumental, that's the proper word, right? But because I don't want to get copyright claimed or struck or anything like that, I'm just going to be playing this on my end and trying to sing a sea shanty in tune with it. So, you know what? Maybe if you guys can, like, pull up some own sea shanty music. Sea shanty. It's not like sea swanty or whatever I'm trying to say. But, yeah, we're going to try to sing this right. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I've got to turn off the directive monitoring on my microphone. We're going to pull up the beat of the sea shanty. The sea shanty. And we're going to get started with the sea shanty of this magic. All right, let's get ready. 1, 2, 3. What's that sound? A rushing of the waves. What's that sound? A sighing of the wind. No, that's whistle. One soft toot and a one ship sinks. Another soft toot and another ship sinks. And that's the voice of one. What's that sound? Rushing of the waves. What's that sound? Rushing of the wind. No, no, that's a whistle. One soft hood and one ship sinks. Another soft hood and another ship sinks. That's the voice of one. One who must never be heard. A magic. Oh God. I don't know how that turned out. I am going to be so nervous. In case you guys didn't hear what I tried to sing, it is, what's that sound? The rushing of the waves. What's that sound? The sighing of the wind. No, no, that is a whistle. One soft hoot and one ship sinks. Another soft hoot and another ship sinks. That is the voice of one who must never be heard. The epic class magic. The time magic. Its formal name, the Chrono Weaver magic. As we see this magic exit out of this doorway from beyond the ship, and we see it just comes out and it's holding its fingers in this rotation, and it just moves its hands in sort of line of its pointed fingers, and all of a sudden, Ichi, Kumbagi, Jiki, Shiron, Goku, Raku, and Deskros are all just like up in the sky, far away from the Chronostasis ship. We end up seeing that Deskros uses a magic called Magneto, which pretty much like magnetizes everybody to her pretty much, and then uses another magic called Speed Ray to get down towards the ship, right? And whenever this happens, Deskros pretty much explains like, hey, so I left one of my pocket watches on the ship here, and then we have Kumagi's watch, right? And the difference between the clock that I left on here and Kumagi's watch is about 15 seconds. And she's like, I thought so. You smooth bastard. You stopped time for us. First, it was Oro Oro, then the world hater, and now you. Your skills are so cheaty, it makes me sick. Well then, let's see how short the time intervals for that power are. And Deskros gets ready to go and attack the Chrono Weaver when all of a sudden, this little person in some knight armor like pops out the bottom of the ship. Ah, ta-da! Oh my gosh, I'm so ready. It's time to swap the decks. And they get up and she's sort of like, we'll learn Sashi in a second. And she's like holding a broom above her head and she's like, Oh no, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you guys? I just have to go back down and I'll leave you all I'm sorry for interrupting and all of this various stuff. She's like, hey, I'll just go down pretty much, right? And as she tries to go back below deck, we see the Ichi and Gokuraku come over and pretty much pick this figure up, right? And she's like, oh dear, no, I've been caught. Oh my goodness, this isn't good, pretty much, right? And we see the Deskros is like, what is this? The magic isn't stopping time. As all of this happens, and Deskros is like, hey, you two, check out what's going on over there. And as all of this happens, Ichi eventually says, hey, there's actually a human in this armor. And not only that, but she's pregnant. As all of this armor comes off, and everybody's like, what's going on here? As we see that this girl, we don't really learn her name, but she's like, oh yeah, I'm just your run-of-the-mill pregnant lady, pretty much. Right? She's like, hey, please, would you guys mind not acquiring my hubby? And Deskros is like, I'm sorry, what? As we see the Chrono Weaver magic just appears behind this girl. And she's like, yeah, the baby I'm carrying is the child of human and magic. And everybody on Team Deskcross is like, wait, what? And that's where we end this chapter on this very interesting reveal. And of course, a real reveal that's pretty awesome for the whole idea of like, hey, Jiki Shiron's whole thing of like love of with like a magic and a human and all these other various things. Yeah, it makes sense why Jiki Shiron has come along with this when the story is going to be, human and magic like child, like, hey, pretty neat. Good chapter of Ichi the Witch, which with with a sea shanty sung halfway through it. Gosh, Glowplasma, you can't speak. Like, do I need to like take lessons on how to say sea shanty or sea shanty? Sea shanty. I said it like 2 times in a row. I'm happy there, right? But moving on, next I want to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, chapter number 4. And oh my gosh, this is such a complex chapter of Modulo. But it's so good, right? But this chapter of Modulo pretty much just like focuses in on where we were last time, as we just get the whole idea of like, hey, Maru is an alien. Yuka and Tsurugi now 100% know that. And at the beginning of this chapter, there's a little bit of like, hey, what's going on in between all of this? Like, what is Maru's goal and all of this our various stuff. It doesn't really matter. The big idea is that Maru is going to be accompanying Yuka and Tsurugi on a few more Jujutsu high missions, pretty much. Like, whenever they go to investigate a curse, Maru is going to be coming around. And they learn about their next mission, pretty much. It's about this boy who has kept repeating the first grade over and over again. And we learned that this kid's name is Masaki Takeda. And this kid just, like, for some reason has been repeating this first grade for a long time in his life. And we see that Yuka, Tsurugi, and Maru are being informed all of this by just another sorcerer. He's, like, sort of more on the business aspect of it, named Mino, right? And eventually, as we sort of get into all of this, we see that these guys split up into 2 teams. Mino and Yuka are heading over to this child's house, Takeda's house, to pretty much check out if everything of his parents is okay, like what's sort of maybe happening over there. Why Tsurugi and Maru are more sent to be like, hey, we're going to try to investigate this kid and just figure it out from there, right? Well, Yuka and Mino sort of get going on their way, leaving Maru and Tsurugi to pretty much, like, watch out over this school, right? And they're pretty much, like, looking at the gates, and oh boy, this kid walks out. And I've got to love this panel of Tsurugi where he just walks up to the guy being like, hey, you're Masaki Takeda, right? Hey, you got a minute, kid? And this kid's just like freaked out like, oh my gosh, no, I don't know if I like this pretty much, right? And he starts to run away. And I just love how Tsurugi's like, oh, so you're running away, huh? Like, and I also love Maru being like, hey, dude, any kid would run away from that, right? Well, as he's running, a Shikigami pops out of the ground almost to, like, protect him. And it's got, like, this very big, like, pins and needles sewing type design around it. And I just love how we also see, like, hey, the difference between the alien species and our typical human Jujutsu sorcerers, where we see Tsurugi's like, oh my gosh, like a Shikigami guardian spirit? Well, Maru calls it a clan, or a Kalyan, a client or something. I don't know. Bro, do you think I speak alien? But either way, we just see that Tsurugi's like, hey, get back, Maru, do all this various stuff, right? And he starts to get ready to go and attack this thing. But before he can really get ready to, like, go in and fully do it, this kid Takeda starts being like, hey, no, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. And we see that Maru and Tsurugi stop. And later we see that they ended up going to a little bit of a park where we see that Takeda is sort of explaining his story to Maru and Tsurugi. And pretty much as we learned, 3 years ago, this is like what the kid says, like, hey, 3 years ago I went home and found my mom on the floor. I didn't want to be in a second class grade, so I begged my mom to let me stay in first grade forever. Well, my mom became a ghost, and she made it so I could be in the first grade forever. And it's pretty much this whole idea is like, Maru's like, hey, so like, why exactly did you want to do that, right? And eventually there's this whole idea to where Tsurugi just is like, hey, it's obviously this kid's Jujutsu just went crazy after he saw his dead mom, pretty much. A similar thing actually happened to my uncle, or my grandfather, whenever he first awakened his Jujutsu, pretty much, right? This little bit of like, it goes off the rails, right? Well, eventually, we just see, like, Takeda's like, hey, or not Takeda, we see Tsurugi's like, hey, Masaki, what's your real name? And the kid's like, hey, my real name is Masayoshi, right? As eventually they're like, hey, well, can you take us to your house, Masayoshi? Like, there's something I want to check out, right? And as we see they get ready to go over to the house, we now cut over to Yuka and Mino, who ended up getting to, of course, Takeda's house, right? And as they're walking in, there's this whole idea where she's like, hey, I'm sure that Maru and Tsurugi will be here pretty soon. But before they get there, and she points over to like a little bit of like a flower patch, like, hey, you see what's wrong with that? As we see like there's a big bare spot in between all of these flowers. And Yuka says like, hey, let's dig up this spot first. And as this happens, we then cut to the pained expressions of both Yuka and Tsurugi, as we see that Yuka pulls out a small little tree out of the ground, and in the roots of this tree is a human skull entangled in the branches. And Yuka's like, oh, this is just what I thought. As we now cut over to Tsurugi, who's also holding a shovel, and he's like, hey, I guess this right here is the kid's mother's body, pretty much, right? And it's like, hey, you had no choice to hide it here, did ya? And the kid's pretty much like, yeah, I buried her myself, right? As eventually it gets to this whole idea where the kid's like, hey, am I going to get arrested, pretty much? And pretty much we just see that Maru's like, no, of course not. Like, isn't that right, Tsurugi? And Tsurugi explains, like, hey, he doesn't have a dad, so probably Jujutsu High will take him in, pretty much, right? And we just see this kid is just so upset about all of this various stuff. And he's like, hey, but like, what about my house? Can I like come back later? As Maru eventually says like, hey kid, I know, you're right. And I know this is all difficult to take in, but actually I don't have a place to call home either. All the familiar places around me and my home that was filled with all of those memories. I lost all of it. And I don't think that anything can ever fill in the hole that it left. Not until I become someone's neighbor, that is. And we see this young kid, Masayoshi, he's like, what do you mean, like a neighbor? As Maru's like, yeah, it's like a friend who understands the things that are important to you no matter what. And he's like, hey, how about this? Will you be my neighbor, Matoshi? And Matoshi's like, what? And Maru's like, hey, and if you become my neighbor, I'll become your neighbor, and we can just all be neighbors together, pretty much, right? And Tsurugi just smiles as he looks back at this entire scene sort of unfolding. But as this happens, we see that he gets a call on his phone from none other than Yuka. As Yuka's like, hey, Tsurugi, like, you son of a bitch, where the hell are you? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, hey, I'm at Misaka Takeda's house right now. And Yuka's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm at Takeda's house. And Tsurugi's like, no, what are you talking about? As Yuka just says, hey, that Takeda guy is guilty as hell. Totally guilty. We found 5 bodies buried in his yard. And I have a feeling there'll be more. If you make contact with Takeda, take him into custody immediately. As we see Takeda stands up, shoves Maru back on the ground behind him, as he reaches up to his face and starts to, like, pull off a skin, flesh mask here in the moment. And he's like, damn, I didn't know there were more of you. And that's where we end Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo chapter number 4. Just a damn good chapter, man. I love the whole idea in, like, that panel of, like, oh, pulling up the skull and being like, oh, yeah, Yuka found something. And so did Tsurugi. Oh, what's going on here? And as much as that moment of Maru is nice of like, hey, become my neighbor and all of that, it also just puts into perspective, oh, this is really weird. I can't wait to read more. Modulo, very good chapter this week. And of course, as you can see, like, I ranked it 3rd. I thought it was a very good chapter, right? But with Modulo being covered now, let's move on to Ping Pong Peril. The good old, the triple P, right? Ping Pong Peril. It's like, as whenever I was born, I got told like 3 Ps, and I knew they from the day I was born. They're like Ping Pong Peril, right? But anyway, this is chapter number 12. And of course, this starts off our battle with Perry against Tiara. As, of course, Perry last chapter was like, hey, I want to bet all the $986 million that I've earned through Ping Pong and Ping Pong Peril on this match. And Tiara's like, what the hell? And he pretty much just says, like, hey, I don't want to question this, but being that Perry just declared it, I bet there's no taking back. I'm sure that's a rule in Ping Pong Peril. And Masaki's like, yeah, you're finally getting it, aren't you? As Tiara just says, like, hey, it doesn't change what I need to do. Play seriously and never give in. Play like my life depends on it. Play like I mean to end him. All I need to do is win. As we pretty much just get a recap of the rules, guys, you're playing it on Shibuya Crossing. Use people's head as ping pong paddles, pretty much, right? And as all this is going on, we see that Pari gets the first shot, pretty much. And I just love how, oh my gosh, this entire chapter is so funny for the fact of every ball bounces off of some person's head. It's just so random and funny. But we see as all of this happens, Tiara's able to go through, hit the ping pong ball back, and it goes and hits on somebody's head, alright? As just the whole idea, Tiara just thinks hey, with everyone moving, there's just so many of them, it's almost like I'm in the center of a 360-degree table. Should I just aim this and put as much distance between my return as I can? As we see that he goes and hits it, but oh no, Hari goes around and hits it back, and Tiara is not able to get to the ball in time. As Tiara just thinks yeah, I've got to think about that. This table is really high up, and we can't necessarily rally the ball or smash it, so our returns are weaker. But we can also send them into a completely different direction. As we see that he goes and swings it into a direction, or Pari does, and Tiara's damn it, the crowd is making it impossible to keep up with all of his movements, right? And we see that as he's getting ready to go hit the ball, Tiara runs into some other, passerby, and he's oh boy, that was close, I'm really sorry. As Tiara's just damn it, I can't move around freely. And he just looks up at this guy's face, who just looks out in disgust as Tiara's oh wait, no, I'm actually the one who's getting in everybody walking around's way, oh no, pretty much, right? He's hey, I'm really sorry, but there's 900 million on the line, you don't understand, and all of this various stuff. As Tiara just thinks hey, this is way harder than I ever thought it was going to be. I never imagined that using people as a table would make it this challenging to maneuver around. As we now see that traffic has started going, right? So everybody has to stay on one edge of the crossing. As Tiara just thinks hey, it also reminds me, as he looks across the way to where Pari is standing, and the iconography of a snake is coiled around him. As we just see that Tiara flashes back, and he's thinking hey, one more please, coach. And we see, of course, this is whenever Pari was teaching Tiara how to play ping pong. And Hari's hey, sure, if that's what you want. And Tiara just thinks hey, coach studies people as he's playing them. As you just see, they're playing ping pong, as Pari's hey, what's your favorite drink? And Tiara's oh, it's melon soda. Hey, what's your favorite movie? Your name. What are your favorite kind of shots? Oh, drives. As Tiara thinks, as we rallied, we chatted like we were friends on our way home from school, figuring out what I was like and learning my preferences, habits, and behaviors. As Pari hits the ping pong ball with his paddle, and it just goes, and Tiara is barely able to sort of rebound it back, right? But of course, he doesn't get it right, the angle, and it just falls onto the ground. And Pari's I knew it. You're bad at returning wide corner-to-corner shots. And we just see Tiara being hey, and the next thing I knew, I was trapped like he was a snake coiled around me. As we see that, of course, Misaki, or is her name Misaki? I don't remember what her name is, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. We see that she's sitting up at a cafe looking down on the crossing pretty much where these two are playing ping pong. And she sort of realizes oh, I get it. That Pari guy, he's the type who exploits the playstyle of his opponents that they dislike pretty much, right? As Tiara is still running around, trying to hit the ball back, and he's just not able to do it, and he's damn it, it's super crowded. So how is Pari able to maneuver around that well? As you just get some narration saying hey, Pari Hezibuka can see through people. He takes in every last detail about the way they move and perceives their flow like an undulating wave. As Pari just says hey, by aligning myself to your flow, I can maneuver around you without altering my strength. And Tiara's damn it, he's a real pro. And Tiara's which means I need to play even harder. As he starts to crawl his way through people sorry, I'm coming through, my bad, right? And maneuver through all of this. As Pari looks back being hey, when you were in middle school, you were quite lax when it came to securing wins. You've grown pretty greedy, though given your Pong Peril in the first place and the prize on the line, I guess it's really not that surprising. As far as did your parents leave you in debt or something? Wow, Pari, congratulations on understanding what's going on here, right? But either way, it's hey, there's one thing about you that hasn't changed, though. You stand out too much. As pretty much Tiara comes through, hey, excuse me, swings his ping pong paddle up, hits the ball towards Pari, as Pari just thinks, and that's why I really, really, really hated you. As we now go into a little bit of another flashback from Pari's perspective. It's already been 3 years, huh? I've been chosen as an Olympiad trainee, but I had yet to gain any results yet, so I was smoldering. As we see that he goes to a local middle school, as the principal's hey, I'll introduce you over here. I can't believe someone like you came to be coach at some no-name school like ours. That's pretty crazy, man. And Pari says hey, I'm only here because someone I know introduced us. He's what am I even doing here? And he walks inside the room, and he just thinks, as I searched for some sort of fix for my frustration, I visited a middle school. I was grasping for straws, only to find the real deal standing right there. And hey, it's Tiara. And Pari's hey, will you play a game for me? Tiara's okay, I will. And they play ping pong, and we see that Pari ends up winning with a score of 3-11. Of course, Tiara got 3 points, not bad for him, right? And both are damn it, he is so good. As we just see Pari's damn it, this kid's really going to go pro in no time. I can't risk going all out against this kid. And Tiara thinks hey, even if he is a pro, I still thought I'd be able to take him down, but I didn't stand any sort of chance. As Tiara just thinks, damn it, I want to learn from a guy like him. And Pari thinks, I don't want to teach this kid anything, right? But as all this happens, we cut back into the present, where Pari says, damn it, that's how the two of us met, and that genius-level talent of yours is just way too charming. It's hey, I'm a pro, but I still couldn't make it into the Olympics. But you're different from a fraud like me. And Tiara's man, I need to do something about all of these people, something that Coach won't think of. If only I was 9 feet tall. Hey, excuse me, everybody. Could someone please... As we now cut up, as Tiara is talking for all of these people, to Mitsuki, who is sitting up here, and she just starts laughing, spitting out her drink onto the table. She's seriously? What is that idiot doing? As we just see that Tiara is pretty much riding in the formation of a cavalry battle, as we see that 3 people are acting as his base legs, 1 person in front, 2 person on the back, holding Tiara up above their heads. And Pari gets the final word for the end of the chapter, just looking, being damn it, you really do stand out too much. This was just so funny to me. I not only love getting the entire backstory for hey, this is Tiara's whole thing, right? This is how him and Pari met, going through all of this stuff to eventually just be hey, my man is just dual pulling the cavalry battle pretty much. He's getting ready to go through and he's attacking. This is Tiara's way to get a leg up. And even still, the score throughout this entire time is pretty dastardly. I mean, or do we even see the score? We don't see the score. That's my bad. I have read the next chapter of Pong Peril, and I know the score gets pretty low. No, we do see the score. It's 0-4 whenever we see that Tiara ends up starting the cavalry battle stuff. So, just really funny. I really enjoyed this chapter, and I love Pari right now. I love Tiara, and even though I know the series is ending in 5 chapters after this, it's just so fun. What can I say, right? But either way, moving on to, of course, what you all can see, I ranked as my favorite chapter of this week. It's none other than Akane-banashi, chapter number 176. As we start off this chapter with Akane just thinking, the eye needed to draw the audience's attention towards a well-crafted work of art. I thought that was sight, but I was wrong. What I should have had my eye on is. As Akane just continues her story. Now, within this group, there was a fellow who went an entire year without buying any main dishes to eat with his rice. A very economical gentleman, let's say. So how did he eat without having any tea to go along with it? As we just see reflected in Akane's eyes is one particular viewer. And as she sort of goes through her entire story, being like, hey, across the street was a grilled eel seller. And when they started the fire and began cooking up that eel, the rich scent of glaze wafted over. So he shoveled a mouthful of rice in and savored the lungful of the smell. Come on, hurry, quickly now. Get a good whiff while you can, guys. They're going to close up the shop soon. Oh, I better hurry. I'm going to run out of my main dish. You get the idea. As we just see, this guy's face is centered in Akane's eyeball. It zooms out. Him sitting there, not just his face, but his entire body. Him sitting in the chair, the people around him. Zooming out, all of the people in the chairs around him. The entire audience. The entire stage. The entire building. Akane sees herself through her eye as well. As of course we remember to whenever Akane was over in France, and of course she went through and the reporter guy, I feel bad for not remembering his name, but he was there and Akane's like, oh yeah, I saw you come in. It was around that part of like the very top of the food chain bit whenever you got there, right? And Akane's like, hey, it's a sensation I felt at Asugo Anisan's debut, expanding the field of vision, taken further beyond, until I can see even myself. The disconnect between my mental image and actual movement. The disconnect between what I want to show and what the audience sees. I preside over all of it until they align and become one. All of it to guide you deeper into the story. As we get this fantastic panel of Akane just like reaching out her hand, the puppet master of her tale of Rakugo, as Shomei just looks and he almost cracks a smile like, oh, what is this? As narration continues, the sight is the art objective of observation, as laid out by the great No writer, Zaimi, in his treatise on the arts, Kairako. The eyes stare at oneself whilst upon the stage. Sight outside of sight. Rakugo is an art form about imagination. We rouse the audience's mental images and draw them into the story. As the craft is honed and polished, and the information conveyed becomes more dense, the depth of the world we describe increases. As Akane is then just going through her story. Well, the 30th of the month rolled around, and, pardon me, sir. And you are? Oh, right, I know you. You're the eel cook from across the street. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your patronage. But actually, I've come with your bill today. My bill? Is there some kind of mistake going on here? I never ordered any eel from you. No, there's no mistake, sir. Here, you can see the receipt. 1 yen and 50 eel for, sniffing? What is this? As we just see Akane sort of acting out her story, and all of a sudden, her vestige starts to disappear, and replacing it is the characters of this story of Rakugo. What do you mean, eel sniffing? Well, whenever we cook the eel, sir, you've been taking advantage of the smell from over here, right? So my boss sent me over here to collect the, sniffing, fee. I don't believe it. I've never been charged for a sniffing fee before. But hey, there's no denying that I've been sniffing. Hey, honey, bring me 1 yen and 50 cents over here, please. All in coins, if you don't mind. Oh, thank you, ma'am. All right, here we go. 1 yen and 50 cents. Thank you, kind sir. As we see, of course, the chef reaches out his arm, And we see the other guy's like, hey, don't grab that. Just lean your ear in. Huh? What are you saying? As we see the man jiggles all around the coins. You hear that? It's the sound of 1 yen and 50 sen. If you're going to charge me for smelling, I'm going to pay you in sound. As we get this 2-page spread of just everything going on here in the world, dogs running by, children running by, samurai walking down the lane. And one audience member in particular is just laughing, or not laughing. One audience member in particular is just sitting, everything disappeared, watching this act in front of him. As he just starts to laugh. And everybody just starts to do all of this until eventually we see that Master Ikin is, of course, watching this over his phone. He's like, damn, now this is impressive. Will you reach what comes beyond vanishing? And that's where we end this chapter of Akane-banashi. On this really cool note of this really not only funny story, but also this idea of the power of sight outside of sight. It's how does a Rakugo manga have some of the best reveals in modern shonen? Akane-banashi is something special, a series so amazing that if for some reason you are watching this video and have not experienced Akane-banashi, I'm sorry for spoiling such an awesome reveal for you, but go check out this series, like, legitimately, right? But Akane-banashi, great chapter. And as I mentioned, instead of talking about 4 series in this mini episode of Weekly Shonen Jump, I wanted to talk about 5. So let's talk about the 5th, the Elusive Samurai, chapter number 220. This chapter is titled Evil God 1352. Oh no, that's pretty scary, right? But of course, this chapter is just really about the overwhelming power that Takayuji currently has. As we just see, like, everybody's trying their best to do something to Takayuji, but they legitimately can't. We see, like, Gimba throws, like, a little bit of, like, a sulfur bomb, and, like, Shizuku, like, tries to fire, like, a dart at his back. But they're like, oh no, he shielded himself from both the blow dart and the explosive fragments without even looking. Like, the divine power he used to strengthen his luck is now focused on strengthening his body and prowess in combat. I doubt our attacks have a better chance of hitting than before. As Tokiyuki's like, hey, I have no chance. I must now strike while he is alone. And Tokiyuki gets on his horse, holding the blade of Onimaru in his hand. He's like, hey, I'll topple him with a mounted charge. So the Hamiya clan, as he just starts to ride and go on. But Takayuji stands here, cuts Tokiyuki's horse in half. The only reason Tokiyuki is alive here is strictly because he is the Elusive Samurai. As Takayuji just comes through and bisects half of the horse into quarters at this point. This man is insane. As of course, as all of this blood and horse cuts rain down from the sky, we finally get it. The non-Bokuchou tag. Evil God Ashikaga Takayuji. As Takayuji just stands here in front of Tokiyuki. And he just says, I just remembered when you were a child, I once showed you swordsmanship just for fun. Shall we continue the fun today? As we see, like, Takayuji barely even swings his sword down at Tokiyuki, but the pressure, Tokiyuki's barely able to hold this blade up here in the moment. As of course, Tokiyuki remembers the back in the day whenever Takayuji did that, right? And of course, whenever Takayuji just said, like, oh, my younger brother and my steward insist on it. I have sufficient talent for war, but responding to his retainer's wishes is a lord's duty. Of course, showing us how far Takayuji has come and how much this man has been corrupted. As Tokiyuki's like, damn it, this guy is so fast. I need to put some distance between us. As Tokiyuki starts to panic and does what he does best, run away. But he runs away the opposite direction. Takayuji just in front of him. This man's got speed as well. As Takayuji's just like, what a lovely blue sky out today. What is there to be troubled over as a day like this? It's a beautiful day for squashing the little bug that has pestered me for 10 long years. As Tokuyuki's just like, damn it, this isn't good. And even Gimba on the back line is just like, damn it, I can't get close enough to help out my lord. Like, Takeuji is just way too fast, too strong, and too well defended. There aren't enough of us. As we just see that Tokuyuki gets, like, slinged back by Takeuji and ends up hitting straight into Gimba. And everybody, even on the other sides of the battle, are like, no, this isn't good. We see Kojiro and Sheena being like, no, this isn't good. And Kojiro being like, damn it, Ayaku's too busy over there. We can't help Takeuji and Gimba, or we can't help in a fight against Takeuji with Tokuyuki and Gimba. Like, we aren't strong enough. The young Nezu's doing this as well. And we see that Yakusada is also looking at all of this as well. As he's like, no, this isn't good, the young lord. As also we just see all of the armies just being like, hey, it's a general melee, swarm Takeuji's voices, and all of this is going on while Tokuyuki is just trying to land a single hit on Takeuji. But he isn't able to do it. Takeuji is just barely dodging out of the way, almost like sort of looking comedic as he does it. And Tokuyuki is like, no, this is nothing like before. I can't even keep my eyes on him. As Sheena even thinks from the background, or not Sheena, Shizuku is like, hey, his own natural talent is enhanced by his training, and his strength is magnified by that of an evil god. Nisama has no hope of defeating him. As Takeuji eventually just sits down, Tokuyuki shivering, almost looking like a child. Ah, young lord, where are you going? As we just see Tokuyuki's like, and I can't even flee from him. I'm powerless. This is it. As Takeuji comes through, getting ready to swing. Now, die. But as he's getting ready to do this, Takeuji moves his blade in another direction. As none other than Uno Yukiyasu comes in to save the day, slinging down. As Tokuyuki's like, Uno Dono, as he knows, allow me to fight Ashikaga Toko. Takeuji uses his blade and cuts a massive wound into Uno's core. As we just get narration, Uno Yukiyasu, a stalwart veteran of the Suwa sect, lost his life during this battle. As Tokuyuki runs over, no, Uno Dono, as Uno is just laying on the ground. Ah, I was blessed with a wife and children, and I demanded my domain and faith. I have no regrets, Tokuyuki. And in the next world, Myojin-sama will rejoice when I tell him how you have grown. As Uno's arm falls to the ground with a thud, as Takeuji looks around. Ah, what's wrong? Why don't you usually enjoy yourself like you normally do, Tokuyuki? And that's where we end this chapter of the Elusive Samurai, on this moment of, can things get any worse? And yeah, that's the video this week, guys. I know it's a little bit of a long one talking about these 5 chapters of manga, but I mean, I've been recording for 53 minutes. I don't know how long I've got to cut out for the Ichi the Witch sea shanty, but it's going to be some amount of time. But either way, for all of you guys who are still wondering what my general ranking was, my favorite chapter of the week was the Elusive... It was not the Elusive Samurai. It was Akane-banashi, followed by the Elusive Samurai, Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, Pong Peril, Kagurabachi, Ichi the Witch, Someone Hurts, Ultimate X Kyoshi, One Piece, Blue Box, Witch Watch, Ekiden Bros, Harukaze Mound, and Hima Tin. And my character of the week was Takeuji, because you can't tell me he wasn't a great character this week. And yeah, with all that being said, I know this was a mini episode. I don't know if we're going to be doing more mini episodes more frequently, sort of coming up here pretty much. But I mean, next time we're talking about issue number 45 of Weekly Shonen Jump of 2025, 45 of 25, right? That's pretty neat. And we'll go and be talking about the chapters you just saw me paste on screen here, but... Hey, that reminds me, this is a podcast on YouTube. Go check it out there, or check it out on podcasting platforms like Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, other podcasting platforms. I just said YouTube like it's not where the video version is, but whatever. yeah, this is my video on issue number 44. I really hope you guys enjoyed the sort of short talk about or the long form discussion of Ichi the Witch, Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, Pong Peril, Akane-banashi, and the Elusive Samurai. And hey, I had a good time. I hope you had a good one. And without any further ado, I will catch you guys next time. This will be Glowplasma signing out. Yeah, can I say the word sea shanty? Yes, sea shanty, sea shanty. How many times can I say it in a row? Sea shanty, sea shanty, sea shanty, sea shanty, sea shanty, sea shanty, she says she. Okay, that was like 7 times before I like slurred my words. You know what? I'll catch you. This is Glowplasma signing out.